Y'all see that other thumbnail? Scary. And that I just did probably is this one. Okay, we're at the wonderful house and on the banks of Plum Creek. This one's a little longer. The creek went down, and all at once the days were warm, and early every morning Pa went to work. Pa went to work the wheat field with Sam and David, the Christmas horses. I declare, Ma said, you're working that ground to death and killing yourself. But Pa said the ground was dry because there had not been enough snow. He must plow deep and harrow well and get the wheat sowed quickly. Every day he was working before the sun came up, and he worked till dark. Laura waited in the dark till she heard Sam and David splashing into the ford. Then she ran into the dugout for the lantern, and she hurried to the stable to hold it so Pa could see to do the chores. He was too tired to laugh or talk. He ate supper and went to bed. At last the wheat was sowed. Then he sowed oats, and he made the potato patch in the garden. Ma and Mary and Laura helped plant the potatoes and sprinkle little seeds in the garden rows, and they let Carrie think she was helping. The whole world was green with grass now. The yellow-green willow leaves were uncurling. Violets and buttercups were thick in the prairie hollows, and the sorrel's clover-like leaves and lavender blossoms were sour and good to eat. Only the wheat field was bare and brown. One evening, Pa showed Laura a faint green mist on that brown field. The wheat was up. Each tiny sprout was so thin you could hardly see it, but so many of them all together made that misty green. Everyone was happy that night because the wheat was a good stand. The next day, Pa drove to town. Sam and David could go to town and come back in one afternoon. There was hardly time to miss Pa, and they were not even watching for him when he came home. Laura heard the wagon first, and she was the first one up the path. Pa was sitting on the wagon seat. His face was one big shining of joy, and lumber was piled high in the wagon box behind him. He sang out, "Here's your new house, Caroline." "But, Charles," Ma gasped. Laura ran and climbed up over the wheel up onto the pile of straight, beautiful boards. They had been sawed by machinery. "But the wheat's hardly up yet," Ma said. "That's right," Pa told her. "They let me have the lumber, and we'll pay for it when we sell the wheat." Laura asked him, "Are we going to have a house made of boards?" "Yes, Flutterbudget," said Pa. "We're going to have a whole house built of sawed lumber, and it's going to have glass windows." Remember their last cabin had that. It was really true. Next morning, Mr. Nelson came to help Pa, and they began digging the cellar for that house. They were going to have that wonderful house just because the wheat was growing. Laura and Mary could hardly stay in the dugout long enough to do their work, but Ma made them do it. "And I won't have you giving your work a licking a promise," said Ma. So they washed every breakfast dish and put them all away. They made their bed neatly. They brushed the floor with a willow tree broom and set the broom in its place. Then they could go. They ran down the steps and over the footbridge and under the willows up to the prairie. They went through the prairie grasses and up to the top of the green knoll where Pa and Mr. Nelson were building the new house. It was fun to watch them set up the skeleton house. The timbers stood up slender and golden new, and the sky was very blue between them. The hammers made a gay sound. The planes cut long curly shavings from the sweet-smelling boards. Laura and Mary hung little shavings over their ears for earrings. They put them around their necks for necklaces. Laura tucked long ones in her hair, and they hung down in golden curls just like the color she had always wanted her hair to be. Up on the skeleton roof, Pa and Mr. Nelson hammered and sawed. Little blocks of wood fell down, and Laura and Mary gathered them in piles and built houses of their own. They had never had such a good time. Pa and Mr. Nelson covered the skeleton walls with slanting boards nailed on. They shingled the roof with boughten shingles. Boughten shingles were thin and all the same size. They were far finer shingles than even Pa could hew with an axe. They made an even, tight roof and not one crack in it. Then Pa laid the floor of silky smooth boards that were grooved along the edges and fitted together perfectly. Overhead, he laid another floor for the upstairs, and that made the ceiling of the downstairs. Across the downstairs, Pa put up a partition. That house was going to have 2 rooms. One was the bedroom, Ma and Pa's bedroom, and I bet. And the other, one was the bedroom, and the other was only to live in. He put 2 shiny, clear glass windows in that room, one looking toward the sunrise and the other beside the doorway to the south. Good. In the bedroom walls, he set 2 more windows, and they were glass windows too. Laura had never seen such wonderful windows. They were in halves. There were 6 panes of glass in each half, and the bottom half would push up and stay up when a stick was set under it. Guys, I know I don't usually do this in 2 parts, but I've got the sinus post-nasal drip. So if you'll forgive me, we'll do this in a part 1. And I'll come back and read the rest of it tomorrow. Most of them are really, really short, as you know. Okay. Be sweet. Don't be ugly. Live at 3 Eastern today, whatever time that is for you. It's my dryer. Time to go. See you at 3, I hope.